All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down something pretty incredible. How a single click, just one view on a video, kicked off this huge global campaign to fight hunger. And it all starts with a promise. A really simple but powerful one. And there you have it. That's the core idea right there. The whole concept is that your attention, just the simple act of you watching, that becomes the currency that helps feed somebody. It's framed as this direct one-for-one exchange. You watch, someone eats. Simple as that.
Okay, but how? Right? How does that actually work? How does one little click ripple out and somehow lead to building farms and kitchens and, get this, even fighting child labor? That's the real story we're going to unpack here.
So the first ripple is the most obvious one. It's super direct. You watch the source video, that generates money, and that money, it goes straight to providing meals for people who need them. It's a really clean, straightforward connection.
So your view is basically the spark, right? It's the catalyst that gets the whole engine started. But, and this is the important part, that first meal is just the beginning. It's not the end of the story. It's the start of a massive chain reaction. All right, let's take a look at Kenya. This is our first big case study for how this thing grows, because this is where the whole project went from just handing out food to actually building long-term sustainable solutions.
And this is where things get really interesting. The free meal program worked almost too well. Suddenly, school attendance just skyrocketed, which sounds great, right? But it created a brand new problem. They didn't have enough desks. You had kids who were literally sitting on rocks just to be in class. Can you imagine?
So you see, the strategy had to level up. It's a logical progression. Step 1, provide the meals to get the kids in the door. Okay, step 2, upgrade the classrooms with desks so they have a place to learn. Step 3, build a real kitchen and a well to feed all these new students. And then the final step, the big one, create a whole self-sustaining food system with greenhouses and farms. It's genius.
And check this out. This is one of my favorite parts. It shows how one single piece of tech can just change everything. They gave a local farm a new tractor, right? And a job that used to take 45 minutes of backbreaking work now takes just 45 seconds. That's not just an improvement, that's a total revolution in efficiency. And that new efficiency immediately translated into massive scale. They got a brand new community truck, and its very first trip out, get this, it delivered enough food for over 100,000 meals, reaching families all across the entire community. Just incredible.
Okay, so now let's switch gears and head over to Ghana. Here, that same basic idea, providing food, was used to tackle a totally different and really personal problem.
So, in the communities in Ghana where they farm cacao, for chocolate, there's a heartbreaking reality. Almost half, 45% of the kids in these families are working in illegal child labor. They're forced to work just so their families can get by.
And the solution they came up with here was just so smart. Instead of just giving them food, the program gave families livestock. This created a new, sustainable source of income. And that broke the cycle. The kids weren't needed on the farm anymore, so they could finally go to school. For many of them, it was the first time in their lives.
And you can just feel the emotion, the weight of what this meant in this quote from a local school official. This wasn't just some charity handout for them. They saw it as an answer to their prayers, a real shot at a better future for their kids.
All right, now the story takes another turn and brings us back to the United States. But the problem here, it's completely different. It's not about scarcity. It's a bizarre paradox of massive waste right alongside real hunger.
Just look at these numbers. It's kind of hard to believe. America produces more than enough food for every single person, and yet almost 40% of it just gets thrown in the trash. The issue isn't that we don't have enough food, it's a giant logistics problem.
And this is where our next hero enters the story, a nonprofit called Sharing Excess. Their mission is so simple, it's brilliant. They rescue millions of pounds of perfectly good food that grocery stores and suppliers would otherwise just throw out for silly reasons, like a little bruise on an apple or a box that's getting close to its sell-by date.
And this really hits home the point about the U.S. problem. It's not about farming, it's about transport. By giving Sharing Excess just one more truck, just one, their capacity exploded. They could suddenly rescue an extra 7 million pounds of food a year. That's the power of solving a logistics bottleneck.
Okay, so we've seen the direct impact, right? The click to meal. We've seen the ripple effects, like building schools and fighting child labor. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, how this whole thing was amplified, how it went from big to absolutely massive through some game-changing partnerships. So that initial click got plugged into a series of massive amplifiers. You had Sharing Access handling the food rescue. Then you had DoorDash with their Project Dash, using their huge delivery network to actually get the meals to people's doorsteps. And then Tony Robbins came in and basically hit the turbo button on the funding for the entire thing.
Now, the original goal was already huge. Even before the video went live, the plan was to have 1 million meals already funded and ready to go on day one.
But then, Tony Robbins made a commitment that just blew everyone away. He pledged to match the funding to provide an additional 10 million meals. I mean, that just takes the whole campaign to a completely different stratosphere.
And here's where it all comes back to you, the viewer. This is the amazing part. A blank check was literally given to Sharing Access, but the final number on that check wasn't written in advance. It was, and still is, being filled in by every single person who watches the source video.
So when you trace it all back, from one meal to a new farm in Kenya, from a kid getting to go to school in Ghana to millions of pounds of food being rescued in America, it all started with a single click. Which really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What really is the power of a single view?